All right. So on this episode of Empowering Her, I have Meg. Meg, thank you so much for being here. So excited to hear this story of yours.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be able to share the story.
All right. So why don't we start with kind of what your role is today and kind of your journey that has led you to where you are?
So today, the way that I earn a paycheck, it's kind of a bumpy ride, but I'm a franchise business consultant. I'm essentially a matchmaker. I help individuals who would like to own a business but don't have their own
Okay.
um, business plan, invest in a business that they can either own and operate, or they own it but someone else is in place. So I'm the matchmaker between the companies that I represent and the individuals or investors who would like to make that investment. I got here through probably like a lot of the people you're interviewing. It's sort of a snaky, skittish, bumpy ride that got me to where I am today, compared to where I started. But yeah, I'm a franchise business consultant.
Okay, that is so. I have to hear. We have to have hear this story about where did you even find that this was an opportunity as a profession?
Yeah.
What led up to this?
So I was married at the time, living in Chicago, and my then husband went to a franchise expo in Rosemont, which is a suburb of Chicago. And he came home and said, I've always wanted to own my own business, but I don't have a business plan. So franchising is the way to go. You know, you turn on the lights, unlock the door, and you are making money. And I
Okay.
thought, okay, get rich quick? No way. We don't know anything about owning a business, and we don't know anything about cutting hairs. What he gravitated towards cars, residential cleaning, or haircuts, and so we ended up buying a franchise with Great Clips.
Okay.
And it scared me because I didn't know anything about owning a business. I had no employees. I had only been in sales, so responsible only for myself at that time. And I was absolutely frightened to own a business. And it's not as easy as all of that. Just because it's a franchise doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be an easier ride. It's a more clear-cut path,
Yeah.
but it still takes an awful lot of work. So, over time, discovered that I really did have a passion and talent, and what I had to have a passion for and always have is helping people. When I was in elementary school and grade school, all I ever wanted to do was help people.
Okay.
My mother was a hospice nurse, and that's the transition from life to death, the scariest transition any of us is ever going to make. And I wanted to be just like my mom,
Mm, okay.
but I didn't want to go into medicine. so, so I didn't go into medicine, but this path to business ownership really started with franchising, and it scared the heck out of me. But that first location, as I got to know my employees, and cosmetology is a necessary thing. We all have hair. Well, almost everybody has hair. And if you have hair, it probably needs to be cut.
Yes.
Cosmetology is a great program that doesn't require college.
Right.
And it really started to dawn on me how important the trades are,
Mhm.
because I had gone to college and I was encouraged to get a master's degree. But these people I was employing were making a lot of money doing something that is not a glamorous, it's a very hard job.
Yeah.
So it really opened my eyes to the importance of trade schools, trade programs, and then encouraging our kids to get in there and learn a good trade and make earn a good living.
And I think that's so important because even like we have vocational programs here and everywhere, but they're just not they're not pushed. They're almost it's like an afterthought, and so it's not like even on career day, it's universities come and they go, here's our architecture program, here's our nursing program, and for $60,000, $50,000, you know you can which is fine if there is a career path you want to go to that needs that degree, medicine, law, nursing. But there are so many career paths out there that even with like the vocational trainings, we don't even hear about, much less so many of these other careers such as cosmetology. And then, as these interviews progress, we've talked to recruiters and tech sales and marketing and project management with many people not having a degree, or if they do have a degree, It's because I started in a different career field,
Yeah.
and they're in totally something different now.
Yeah.
So it's it's been amazing, and I really wish there was more of a push towards what I would call non-mainstream roles out there.
So, in a couple of the marketplaces that I do business in, I've tried to be instrumental with that voice to say to parents who sometimes are the people I'm working with who want to buy a business. They've got kids.
Mhm.
And I keep saying to them, this is a great opportunity for you as a parent to show your kids
Yeah.
the importance of high demand, recession resistant businesses where
Oh,
the certification is not glamorous.
right.
But if I show you, Josh, where the consumer dollars are going, these are all industries because as consumers, we get our homes cleaned, our windows washed, our cars cleaned, our lawns mowed,
Yeah.
yard pickup after a dog. If you have a plumbing issue, electric issue, HVAC issue, you need it fixed right now.
Right.
Ever locked yourself out of a car or out of your house? You need to get in right now.
We had. It's funny you mentioned that last week. And it was early in the morning. I'm on the way to school, and apparently when I got out of the car and I left it running because it's a rural area, so there's I'm not worried about it. And apparently, instead of hitting the making sure I hit the unlock button, I hit the lock button. Went in to get my coffee, came back out, car's running, phone's in the car, it's locked, the key to the car is locked, and just like a twist of fate, there happened to be a tow truck that happened. He pulled up to get coffee, and I said, "Hey, can you unlock my car?" He's like, "You know what? $50." And I'm like, "You know what? Yes, let's just do it." So yeah, absolutely.
So this is the importance for parents to be able to teach their kids, show their kids, encourage them. And I can tell you from some of the franchise companies that I represent, these skilled tradesmen, and maybe you come up through a journeyman program, maybe it's a mentorship program, and you get your certification on the job.
Yeah.
But these employees of some of these concepts are making six figures without a
Yes.
college degree. That's real money. I used to have conversations with my stylists about the tips that they were making.
Uh-huh.
They're like, that's not real money. It's not in my paycheck. So that's not real money. I said, well, what do you do with that money? Oh, I get gas. I buy my cigarettes. I get whatever. Like, that's real money.
Right.
There's a lot of really good opportunity out there, whether there's a tip involved or not. But these are essential services that I don't care what happens in the economy. We all need air conditioning if it's 90 degrees, and you're going to pay for it.
Absolutely. And so there was it's a former student of mine actually. She is a stylist, and so she was for her portfolio. She kind of did a call out and said, I need men to cut some hair so I have all the women. Now I need some men so I can have this portfolio. And so I said, all right, Sarah, I'll let you cut my hair. And so she's always like, hey, Josh, or she doesn't call me Josh, she calls him Mr. Morgan, but she's, since you let me like practice on your hair and I could have totally messed it up, come up here anytime for, a free cut. And I'm always like, no, I will support your business. But, I asked her and I said, just out of curiosity, what do you normally charge for a cut? And what she told me, I about fell out of my chair. I was like, God. Okay, because I'm so used to like my hair, it's I usually take like a trimmer and just so
Right.
but like my wife goes and gets her hair cut all the time. I just don't even ask her. If she's happy, then that's all that matters. But yeah, so and I asked her, I said, hey, I'm just totally curious because now my daughter is looking at cosmetology school, so it's interesting that we're having this conversation. But she was like, I just don't know, Dad, because I think she's so used to like super cuts from old school where you went and you paid $5 and you got a haircut. And so
Mm.
I said, how much are you making? Just out of curiosity. And she's like, well, she goes, I'll clear about 160 this year. And I was like, so I told my daughter, I was like, yes, go to cosmetology school. Cause I mean, you can literally work anywhere you want to.
Yeah. Okay. And so here's a good insight for your students and listeners, something that I just had no idea until I was in that role of owning the business. So I never learned how to cut hair. My role in owning the business was to work on building the business
Right.
and let the cosmetologists do their thing.
Right.
It was fascinating to me how many of them had additional jobs in other salons
Mm-hmm.
that were considered the high end cream of the crop salons. They were making more money with me at Great Clips than they were making in the high end salon.
Yeah.
Not only hourly, but then also with their tips and commissions on top of that. So there's this perception. I think it's come a long way. Here we are in 2022. That it's not a chop shop anymore like it used to be considered. That's what my parents said. Oh, Maggie, Great Clips. That's just a chop shop. But not only were my employees making a lot of money working, they were making more, and that's why they stuck with me because they were making more at Great Clips than they were making at that she high end salon. And that leads me to this story about my parents who kept encouraging me to go back to college and get an advanced degree. And I said, what do you think an MBA is going to do for me?
Right.
Well, you're worth more than whatever you're making right now. And I looked at my dad and I said, I, I don't think you know how much I'm making, but how much is that? Oh, well, you're certainly worth six figures. I said, Dad, I'm already making six figures out of Great Clips. You're paying yourself that much out of Great Clips? Yes, I am. By the way, that six-figure number, what should it start with? For me, your daughter, what's my value? What should I be seeking to accomplish? Oh, well, it should start at least with a two. I said, well, Dad, I'm making more than that already. And his face just went white. His jaw dropped. He had no idea that by owning multiple locations and having
Mhm.
all these employees and doing all those haircuts, that it was a profitable business.
Right.
And I didn't need to go to get an MBA because in a good franchise system like that, essentially you're learning on the job. Talk about an apprenticeship. You're
Right.
learning on the job a lot of the things that you might otherwise learn in an advanced degree program like an MBA. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get an advanced degree,
Right.
but for my life and the work that I do now, what I learned from Great Clips, I jumped the fence, I sold them, and I jumped the fence into this consulting role. I don't need a college degree to do what I'm doing today.
Right.
And I didn't need one back then either.
So for since let's when you want let's say students listening go, I want to be a franchisee. What is a typical cost? It may depend upon business, but overall, how much would somebody need upfront in order to get into a franchise?
So there's a very broad answer to that, but I'll try to be really specific. The For people who want to make real money, and by that I don't mean $35,000 to $50,000. I mean upwards high five figure, six figure income,
Right.
owning a business. It's going to take real money to get into that. About the same amount as what you hope to get out,
Okay.
six figure. Now there are some concepts that if you are the owner operator, you can get in for less, particularly if it's not a brick and mortar location, a retail location. Now, if you think about the turtle and the shell, you're
Right.
carrying that shell around and that's expensive.
Right.
But if you can be in a business that, say, like HVAC,
Mhm.
I don't bring my home to you. The technician comes to my home or my business.
Right.
Those are much less expensive to get into. So some of it is an equation of how much equipment and what does the marketing take. But in order to make good money, I would say you're going to look at $75,000 to $150,000 investment. That said, there are a lot of good financing programs, third-party financing programs, SBA loans. The list goes on and on. Minority loans, et cetera. So it's just a matter of what do you qualify for. And my point of view is what's the right size investment to get you to the long-term financial outcome that you're looking for. So it's a bit of an equation that goes into that.
Okay. So here's where I'm really curious because this goes maybe to the marketing aspect of business ownership is how would one transition into finding the franchises and then bringing the franchise, the people that want to own the franchises. How how do you make all that connect? How do you, how do you prospect?
So, the company that I work for does all of the relationship development with the franchise companies that we represent. So we don't represent every concept that's out there. There are some that are really bad and you really want to stay away from them. And I can tell you what that looks like. We have a portfolio of companies. Um, it's kind of like an executive recruiter or a real estate agent.
Okay.
We want something that's solid, tried, true. People are going back to the consumer dollars. People will spend money there. It's an obvious need. That's what franchising really is all about. We're not trying to come up with the latest, coolest technical thing, although that happens sometimes. Um, so connecting the dots, I'm really a matchmaker. On the one
Right.
hand, I've got the individual who says, "Hey, hand up! I want to own my own business. I want to be my own boss."
Right.
So I take them through a very consultative process about why do they want to do this? What kind of resources do they have? What kind of time, bandwidth, other obligations? Are you married? Do you have kids? What sort of financial picture are we working with? And then I help them to look at companies that will fulfill not only the financial side of it, but it's also the skill set side of it. What
Okay.
in the business do they want to be the technician? Do they want to be the cosmetologist or the plumber? Or are they good at managing people and they really want to just manage the day to day of the business. I'm sorry, manage the overview of the business while they hire somebody like I did, a cosmetologist, to run the business for me.
Yeah.
So I would say for anyone who really wants to look at it, we just start with a conversation about is this realistic? Is now a good time? And what kind of opportunities can we find for you based on your skills and your financials?
Okay. This is like crazy fascinating. So, if so, I have a student watching this, and she's like, I really love what Meg does, and I kind of want to follow that footsteps. Is it possible to do what you are doing like directly out of high school, or what is the path to get into what you're doing now?
Good question. There are so many, I'll call them kids. I'm 58, so students
Yeah.
who are who are in a program. A great way, and this happens over and over in franchising, get a job
Hmm.
that pays well in a business where they will help you learn how that business operates.
Okay.
So I can't tell you, Josh, how many times there has been an employee who had come to me to say, how do I step into the role of an owner? Sometimes it's a delicate conversation of sweat equity turns into real ownership,
Hmm.
meaning you do the work, you don't put the money into it, and there's someone who's willing to support that business along the way until you've earned enough that now you can really start to buy that ownership piece.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then if they decided they, kind of like the path that you're in, if they decided they wanted to go into that matchmaking role, how would one get into the matchmaking role?
That's an interesting question. So there is a lot of shifting going on in my industry right now. There are some brokerage networks that are going out of business or they've reduced the number of consultants, brokers that they have. Typically, so when I got started 20 years ago, the only way you could get a role with the company is if you had an exceptional reputation in franchising already.
Okay.
So you can't buy your way in, and it's really based on reputation. Since 20 years ago, there are some consulting or broker businesses that have popped up where you just buy your way in. Maybe it's 25,000, maybe it's $2,500. Maybe you pay a fee every month in order to use their program,
Okay.
and you don't really have to have experience. So I think for anyone who's thinking about being inexperienced and buying their way in versus getting that experience, I will tell you all day long the trust level of the people you're making that pairing, they will trust you that much more the more
Gotcha.
knowledgeable you are about the industry and how you are guiding them through their own research process.
Okay. This has been very, very thought provoking this is, because I do have a lot of girls that they have indicated, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I'd really like to own a business. So this is really
Yes.
kind of speaking to the heart of
Yeah.
many of my students. Okay, so let's talk a second about mentors and how important do you feel that it is to have a mentor?
As many times as I've run into a brick wall, I've been so grateful for my network of people around me who will take my phone call, help me get unstuck. I crashed and burned. Oh my God, how am I going to get unstuck? Having a mentor, or more than one, really,
Hmm.
is vital to keeping your balance and keeping your perspective. When you own your own business, you have to think fast, you have to react quickly. And so that's where being able to, pick up the phone and phone a friend, hey, I'm stuck, help me out. So mentors are vital.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's a hot seat question for you. Okay, and this doesn't have to be related to career or education. It can just be life in general. But knowing what you know now, what is one piece of advice you would give your middle school or high school self?
Oh, don't believe everything that you hear.
Okay.
Develop an instinct, develop those gut reactions and listen to them.
Okay.
Those are two things that I wish I had done. I could go back and do differently. I spent a lot of time trying to be nice and talking myself into things or being friends with people. You
Hmm.
really have to develop a gut instinct about who you can trust,
Right.
what benefit they bring to your world, and yeah. So I wish I could go back and do that over again. I've always been a really nice girl, but I've made some. I've aligned with some people who didn't have my best interest in mind. So
Yeah.
really fine tune that ability to listen to people and watch their behavior.
Well, and it almost seems like you have to be, and I hate to say like stabbed in the back or done the wrong way
Oh,
by trusting the wrong people before you learn that lesson, and you're
yeah.
just like, God, like why didn't I just follow my gut instinct? Because this was so. I'm so glad you said that, because I think that's why I think the joke is, as we get older we're more jaded, but I think it's from not trusting our gut instinct. So.
Well, there's a saying out there, I think, that um, if in the first 10 seconds you have a strong reaction, trust it. Don't try to talk yourself out of it or change it or, oh, he's so cute. Why doesn't he like me? You know what? There's just move on. There are other things to focus on. You have to take care of yourself. That's one thing also I didn't put enough attention to, is that no one's going to take care of me like I'm going to take care of me. And I want only the best for myself. So, you're going to trip and fall. You're going to make some decisions that are not necessarily great ones. And I've made epic failure decisions. Epic. Trust your instinct, develop it.
Love it. All right, Meg, I really, really appreciate your time. I can't thank you enough for coming on here. This is going to be really invaluable, especially for those students that they do know that they want to at some point go into that business ownership or franchising. Because I did mention franchising at one point. I was
Oh,
like,
good.
there's a lot of places like, restaurants. And I was like, most of the people that own McDonald's are a franchise that they have become an owner of. And so Starbucks and things like that. So,
Absolutely. This is 100% true, that a lot of those businesses will transact to an employee who's demonstrated how good they are at not only their job, but kind of watching the whole scope of the operation. So get in, open your eyes, see what's going on, try, test different areas, get comfortable with being uncomfortable is another thing. Do things that you're not familiar with, ask somebody to show you how. The more you learn, these businesses are transacting to employees who have stepped up and shown that they have the interest.
beautifully put. Love it. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It's been fantastic. And we will chat soon.
Thank you. I love your series.
Thank you.
It's
Bye.
great. All right. Bye bye.